This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world. You're listening to The Kevin Kelly Show, exclusively here on placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world. And now, here's your host, the voice of Ring of Honor, Mr. Kevin Kelly.
The opportunity to end one year but begin another. Are they New Year's resolutions, or are they just things you're going to do in the new year? Are promises made but promises broken more worthwhile than promises never made at all? These are the questions that you're probably asking yourself as we wrap up 2015 here on the Kevin Kelly Show, Place to Be Nation, and the website home, placetobenation.com. I want to welcome you to the broadcast. I'm Kevin Kelly, your host. I hope everybody had a very Merry Christmas. Those of you that celebrated before that, I hope you enjoyed a happiest of Hanukkah. And those of you who are ready for the pagan rituals that, whatever thing you do, you put the goat head on, you dance around your living room, whatever that might be, man, I just hope it is the best goat head wearing pagan ritual that you have ever been a part of. It's been another great year on the Kevin Kelly Show. And this will be the completion of our second year, which I think a lot of people, if you would have had the over-under at how many episodes the Kevin Kelly Show would last, I doubt. Well, let's say I think we hit the over. We crushed the over. So anyway, that's that. But we'll move on and we'll make 2016 an even better year with hopefully some bigger guests and a little bit different way of getting some interviews and a little bit more immediacy. We'll still keep our normal schedule as best we can, and we will always do our best to entertain you each and every episode. That's the main key. So our producer through all of 49 episodes is Justin Rosero. Justin, this was your idea, so if anybody has any complaints, they can just blame you, right?
I banged the under hard. But here we are. Outlived a lot of other podcasts, I'll tell you that much, including multiple of the same person. Yes, multiple editions from some similar people have come and gone, and we're still here, going strong.
Well, that's the way it goes. And let's invite Dan McGinn on, because McGinn is a friend of the show. He helps out with all the producing and everything, putting everything together. Mr. McGinn, how are you?
I'm good, Kev. I wish I could say that I had perfect attendance on this show, but I do not, sadly. But glad to be here for most of the ride thus far.
You were here for more than most.
Yeah.
That's fine. And we appreciate that. So, and of course, we got a lot of people to thank. This is the big thank you. This is where you get it out of the way, right? So then for the next, well, I guess 26 episodes next year, we won't have to say thank you. JR, right. Is that correct?
Yeah, do it now. That's it. It
thanks
goes
to
New
Brad
Year's as well.
At the Place to Be Nation. Thanks to all the listeners. Thanks to everybody who contributes to the site, every single writer, every single podcaster that is on there, because each and every one of you make my show, you help the audience grow for my show. So thank you very much. And also, I hope I do the same for you.
We're the Sheedy Award-winning best podcast feed. We beat out MLW. We beat out our other friends, Voices of Wrestling, and some other sites as well. The best podcast feed out there today with all the wrestling stuff. So
there's and that I retweeted that because I saw that too, and the first thing I thought of was, God, in the space of all this competition, because again, when I started doing the podcast, I said, well, I wanted to do a podcast because everybody else does one now, so I felt like I was a little late to the party, but I needed to do one. There's a ton of podcasts out there, and if I could ever figure out how to listen to any of them, I'll be dangerous. But that's quite a tip of the cap for the Place to Be Nation for the overall feeds that go out, every podcast that's above and beyond just mine. So that's good.
Also,
Brad happy? Is he counting his money? What's he doing?
Oh, he was thrilled. He was tweeting like a giddy schoolgirl all night after we won that, thanking everyone, glad handing, doing what Brad does best. It reminds me of when we met Joe Koff that time. I think it was back in Philly about a year ago, and he was all smiles then too. Two billionaires talking it out. Also on Podbean, if you look at the Place to Be podcast, we are a featured podcast under sports and recreation. We're in the top row. I mean, there's a lot of podcasts on Podbean, all kinds of big-time sports personalities and whatnot, but Place to Be podcast right there, high, with all the shows on our feed.
How many episodes have you and Scott done now?
390.
Jeez.
Our big Christmas extravaganza was 390.
And that was the with the dramatic reading and the wonderfulness and the storytelling?
Yes, if you haven't heard it yet, you'll hear your boy KK in a whole new light on that show. So be sure to check that one out. And that's with us slowing down a lot, Kev. Our pace has come down quite a bit.
Well, it's quality over quantity at this stage of our lives. So we've all got other stuff going on, but that's fantastic. So we'll take the opportunity here on the show. We also want to say thanks to everybody that listens to this show and all the shows as part of the Place to Be Nation, everybody who contributes to the site, including any of the music that is provided, like especially here on the Kevin Kelly Show, Brother Kite. We just want to say thank you for all the music that you provided to us. And I can never remember the name of the website. JR, how do people get Brother Kite music that they hear on the show plus others?
I believe it's bandcamp.com/Brother Kite. I believe.
That's it. Bandcamp.com/Brother Kite. And you'll be able to enjoy the music. So, all right, now that have we gotten all the and thanks to all our guests.
Yeah.
And a little later on, we'll have one of our special look back guests, one of our favorite interviews from 2015 as part of this show. So thanks to all the guests, thanks to all the staff, thanks to the music, thanks to you guys. Anybody else I need to say thank you to?
Boneheads, you want to do that?
Ooh, thanks to Boneheads, our great sponsor this year. Tremendous friends of the Kevin Kelly Show. And the best wings in town when you're up there at West Warwick, right?
Yeah, their wings tickled your tummy a few times this year, didn't they?
An amazing
I don't think
variety
I've ever said
of
that
hot.
Before. I feel like I just made that up on the spot.
And they traveled well across South Philadelphia.
Yes.
And were a hit in the Ring of Honor locker room as well, with ACH enjoying, I think, more than one.
Very good.
If memory serves me correctly. Anybody else? Because I really want to be done with these thank yous.
No, I think that's it. I think we're good. Get rid of cable.net. I mean, they've been with us for a while. Could thank them.
Get rid of cable. You know what I'm doing? I'm in the process of doing that right now.
Look at you, big guy.
Cutting the cord, learning all new technology. I just downloaded Sling the other day, so I've got some live channels. I was able to watch ESPN. And
I want to see you actually, we need a photo for the website of you literally with scissors cutting a cord.
My poor... it's just, listen, I'm 48 and I'm not mentally well. I have a true, trying to do PayPal. I was explaining to you today. I've had PayPal set up apparently for a long time. Just had no idea how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't understand it. Then my wife had to explain it to me. So pitiful, just pitiful. But this is going to be a new year. And it's not New Year's resolutions. It's just stuff I'm going to do in the new year. I am going to start to really embrace every moment because I've been a little slack over the last few months and have been a bit of a hermit, and have especially since the season changed and it gets dark so early. Mm-hmm. I just want to go to bed at 9:00. And it's crazy. I got to stop this. I got to get out more. So
get out.
That's what I'm looking forward to doing. I'm going to learn new stuff. And I'm going to try to stay up later.
There you go.
All right.
I like it. So why don't we talk about the stuff we did see 2015? I thought we'd do a little year in review. Fun.
Okay.
So I came up with some categories. All unique, all brand new categories. Never been done before, ever.
Never.
So we're going to do some of those. I thought we'd do some prognosticating for 2016. I think that'll actually be more fun than this 15-year in review. And I think that'll be our first segment here. So let's look back. Who is your best wrestler this year, Kevin Kelly?
A lot of injuries. This year took a lot of people away from, Seth Rollins had a hell of a run. But Seth Rollins has been on the shelf now for a couple of months. Roman Reigns, to me, is improved, but not at that level. Brock Lesnar is, to me, he's just the phenomenal draw of the millennium in that regard. He's just a juggernaut.
You could argue he's the best. He's the best wrestler overall, but you can argue just didn't have the best year. You know what I mean? But he's the best, like, match-by-match guy.
Sure.
But it's hard to put him for best of the year because he just wrestles so infrequently. And
it's because he's an infrequent guy.
Right.
I would say Jay Lethal is on another world in terms of Jay Lethal right now, but the sphere of influence that Lethal has with his audience in Ring of Honor is not at the scope of what others might say. So I think that plays a part in it. I think Lethal has elevated his own game. I think Lethal has grown the audience. But, I mean, we're really talking about apples to oranges when you compare WWE influence to Ring of Honor, New Japan, any other promotion around the world. So it's hard to say best wrestler, in my opinion. I look at it kind of like the MVP of baseball.
Right.
It's more than just stats. Really tough. I've got to go
Roddy Strong.
Oh, well, and Roddy's been, again, he's been every bit the equal to Lethal. It's hard. It's all right, you go first, because I'm having a hard time with this one. I really am.
I think Roddy Strong's a great choice because he had matches infused with guys like across the gamut, and both across all the different indies, with Ring of Honor, vets, young guys, everything else. And you almost, though, I look at him, he could be best wrestler, but he almost feels like he fits beautifully into like best, I don't want to say comeback because he wasn't hurt, but most improved maybe, because he's a guy that's always been really good, but never on this level. It's almost like the biggest breakout late in his career, which is crazy because he was always well liked and looked at as a very, very good hand. But now he's like a bankable, high profile, great match wrestler. Almost came out of nowhere. I feel like people are still surprised when they say how impressed they are with him. So to me, maybe he slots better into that funnel. Do you think that?
Yeah, underrated or improved. I think obviously are better categories for him. It's tough because in a year, and Paul Heyman has to get some consideration in that most valuable, if we called it,
right,
best wrestler, or if it was most valuable.
Well, he's to me, he's like the most valuable non-wrestler non-in-ring performer is him this year.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I think. I think he has, there's not really a best manager category anymore. So, and the authority's the authority. So, they're up and down. They have their moments. I think Heyman's the most consistently great non-wrestling guy. But one guy we didn't talk about who's actually, I think, my choice. You mentioned Seth Rollins. He's on my list. Roddy Strong's on my list. But I think, believe it or not, John Cena. I think John Cena had arguably the best year of his career since maybe like 06, 07. 07, he had a really strong year. But ever since his injury, he's always had good matches or great matches here and there, but never at this consistent level. And surprisingly enough, he's having matches with, indie guys coming into the promotion better than other indie guys are. Like his matches with Kevin Owens, you could argue, have been better than Dean Ambrose's matches with Kevin Owens. So, I mean, if you look at the quality of stuff he's put out week after week, when he did the U.S. Challenge, the match he had with Sami Zayn, the series with Rusev, booking aside, the awesome match at the Rumble with him, Brock, and Seth Rollins, and then his series with Seth Rollins. And, up until his time off here, he really had a great year. And just week in, week out. Remember his awesome match with Cesaro back earlier in the year as well on Raw. So I think Cena, week for week, when you factor in his drawing ability, his overall power, and his in-ring prowess, I think he's my guy.
Yeah, I would go, and I would say that the best wrestler that I have seen this year and personally called his matches, because I've seen a lot of great ones, and that's AJ Styles, Jay Lethal, Roderick Strong, Tanahashi, Okada, Nakamura. Those are the guys that I have seen personally, and I've called their matches this year that I would put at that level. But to me, there's just something about even at a part-time level that has set Brock Lesnar apart from everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, I find it hard to argue against Brock. To me, like I said, I would separate it in that it's hard to say to me he's the wrestler of the year just because of how limited he was, and that's fine if it's UFC or boxing, but part of the quality or charm of picking a wrestler of the year has to be someone to me that is out there every week doing the thing, because that's part of the gig, is that you're consistently bankable, you don't miss weeks, you don't miss shows, you're there, and it's not his fault. If they paid him more, he'd be there, but based on the way things are set up, I just find it hard to say he's the best wrestler of the year, because to me, you have to factor that in. I mean, you said it yourself, Seth Rollins having a great year, and then he got hurt. Well, so we're going to punish Seth Rollins for being hurt, but Brock wrestled 6 times. And, to me, like I said, I think pound for pound, match by match, if you're saying that quantity doesn't matter at all, it's hard to argue against Brock being the best right now. But who had the best year? I think Cena just had the best overall quality, and the guys, like you said, Strong and Styles as well.
And more perhaps taken for granted, I think, this year than any other, in the wake of all the injuries and in the wake of everything else that has happened. We did not see, we still saw Cena kind of in that, not taking the lead role, didn't have to be the guy again, and, allowed Rusev to be able to come into first Rusev, then, Reigns able to come in his own. Everything he did along the way for Rollins, everything he did along the way for Kevin Owens, Cesaro early in the year, like you mentioned. He made a lot of guys along the way. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, hats off to him.
And even the matches he had with, Neville. Remember those 2 Raw matches with Neville? Those are really well regarded. I mean, I think a lot of us just almost forgotten, because we're not used to maybe that quality of consistency on TV that we saw every week there for a while in the summer.
Yep, and again, I always struggle with that debate, and I go back to, well, what are we grading this on? Is this like the best, overall quantity? Okay, so because he wrestled 26 or 30 3-star matches, and Brock Lesnar was in 8 4-star matches, you know what I mean? So therefore he accumulated more stars, let's just say Cena did. So therefore he gets more votes. That's one way of looking at it. Do you look at it like the absolute most valuable person to professional wrestling right now? Because Brock Lesnar is doing something that hadn't been done in well over a generation, and he's an attraction.
Is he,
they need him to sell tickets. And
has he?
Has he sold tickets? Has he driven buys? Has he brought eyeballs to the product? Yeah, I think so.
Worth what he's getting paid. I love him. I'm really not trying to question him. I'm just playing a little devil's advocate.
Yeah. I don't know if you can equate dollar for dollar. I don't know what the equation dollar for dollar would be, because I don't know what he gets paid, and I don't know what his how he has increased. It's more of a gut feel than everything else, and it's more of that casual fan friend of mine that I would talk to, and one person that they might know, the 2 people that they might know, is John Cena and Brock Lesnar. But when Brock came back, and when Brock was going to wrestle The Undertaker, and when Brock was going to do whatever, it was really special.
And so Brock, how many matches did he have, really, that, was his quality overall as high as we expect out of him? So his match at the Rumble had Cena in it, so we kind of have to throw that out, or at least credit both guys, right? Because you'd argue they were both equal parts of that match. His match with Roman Reigns at WrestleMania was excellent. Then he fought Seth Rollins at Battleground, which was kind of a blah match. His series with Undertaker exceeded expectations. SummerSlam, very good. Hell in a Cell, really good. And then he's had the MSG show, the one with Big Show, and then the one with Kofi in Japan. Am I missing any? I think that's pretty much all the matches he had this year, right? I don't think I'm missing any.
I think you got it.
So, I mean, very good, but I think, if the only match that he had in there that I would say screamed better than Cena's matches without Brock is probably the match with Reigns, and I guess maybe the Hell in a Cell with Taker. But I mean, Cena's first match with Owens was so good, and his stuff with Cesaro on Raw was excellent too. So I don't know. I think Cena matches him for the big matches and then fills out the rest with the my point is I don't think Brock's top matches completely overshadowed Cena's to the point where it doesn't matter that Cena had more quantity.
I agree. I can agree with that. Again, I think that's a fair assertion. Does McGinn get a vote in this?
Yeah, I told him to come prepared. I don't know if he did.
McGinn?
I really like Seth Rollins a lot. I think it was a great moment at WrestleMania, him cashing in. It hadn't been done before, and then kind of just being that heel but beatable champion. And I remember doing the pay-per-view previews, and I just remember, I mean, there were certain matches that you kind of figure, okay, he's probably going to win this against Kane and such, but because I don't think they were going to give him the belt. But there were times where I honestly couldn't tell you exactly, and probably predicted it wrong on several occasions, when he was going to lose the title. And then, of course, what turned out to be the ultimate, it catches up to all of us, is our bodies sometimes betray us sometimes, and that was the only thing that could derail that train for him being the champion. But I really like, I mean, some people thought, well, it didn't bring a lot of business, that sort of thing, but I just thought day in and day out, show in, show out, he was putting on some of the best matches in the company, and it's a tough spot for a young guy like that to be given the belt like that and on the biggest stage. And I think he performed admirably during that time. And it's a shame we didn't get to see him finally pass it on to somebody else. But he'll come back and he'll be stronger than ever. So I think Rollins definitely needs a lot of consideration, not just because he won the Slammy last week.
The one of the big ones too is look at the match he got from Sting at Night of Champions. It was like way exceeded anyone's expectations.
Until he broke his neck.
I was saying nearly killed him, but it was a great match that no one expected. And I think Rollins kind of fits in with like Roddy in the best. You almost have to separate like best worker and then best wrestler. To me, best wrestler has to factor in the whole package when you're looking at everything, because that's what wrestling's about, is being the draw, being the top dog. And I think Rollins and Roddy, those guys fit more in the best worker. So you don't care about their position, their draw. We're just talking match by match. They just have, tremendous matches week in, week out. Whoever the facing doesn't matter. They elevate the game of their guy. They elevated their own game. Like that's where those guys to me slot in better. Whereas
So you put Roddy in Ring of Honor terms. You put Roddy ahead of Lethal for 2015.
I don't know if I've seen enough of both of them to really make. You're obviously making a much more qualified decision than I could on that vote. I would say that Roddy, from what I've read and seen, worked a wider variety of guys across the country in matches that were well publicized and well revered, whether it be Evolve, PWG, Ring of Honor, like all over the place. And I don't know if Lethal did the same. I mean, maybe I'm just not as privy. I just remember seeing Roddy pop up more in that light. But I mean, you're the one that watches them both from ringside every week, so I would say, if you think Lethal had the better year, I'm not going to argue. But do you think Lethal fits in better in that Roddy Rollins category, or more in the
he's
Cena,
more in the Cena category, right, to me, because he has great matches with everybody. He made me single-handedly care about a match with Alberto El Patron. Mm-hmm. Single-handedly. He got all the emotion and passion and everything that you possibly could out of the Best in the World match with Jay Briscoe, when it could have been easy for him to take a back seat to Jay Briscoe, who is more boisterous and loud and all those different things that Jay brings to the table. When it came time to talk people in the building or make me as an announcer care about a big match, nobody did that better in 2015 from a consistent standpoint that I saw than Jay Lethal. Now, bell to bell, Roderick Strong with the physical performances that he put on. There's a match he had with Tanahashi in Philly, which I don't think we were originally going to show. No, we were going to show it on TV, but we couldn't because Roddy got busted open in the match. Just look at what happened in that. Go back and watch the VOD. That's a match that just flew completely under the radar because very few people saw it. It was freaking fantastic. The matches that he had with the 60-minute draw with Lethal, the rematch in Philly, when he eventually beat Lethal for the TV title, I thought the world title match was better than the TV title victory that they had in Kalamazoo. And everything that Roddy has done in 2015 has been otherworldly from an in-ring standpoint. But when it comes to being the man, Lethal to me is a notch above.
So where do you rank So it sounds like we're down to maybe Lethal and Cena as our choices for best wrestler versus best worker. So overall package, talking, working, drawing, being relied upon, the matches they're in week after week. We're looking more at those guys. We're strong. Rollins, we're saying, okay, best in-ring, we're not worried about their promo skills or how they're booked. We're just talking pure match quality. But the other package is more of the Cena Lethal group. So
yeah, Lethal and Cena are a very, very straight line comparison for me with Roddy and Seth Rollins.
And also, I want to toss Cesaro, by the way, in that other group as well with Rollins and Roddy. I think he had a fantastic year. A guy, no matter what role he was shoved into, excelled, whether it was the tag stuff with Tyson Kidd, whether it was working with guys with John Cena, Kevin Owens, wherever he was, wherever he fell into, always delivered a match. And even though they claimed that the crowd wasn't into him or didn't connect, they sounded like they were into him most of the time. So I want to put him in that group as well.
Several moments of the year, as I started to think back, are centered around Cesaro and some of just his feats of strength and pure athleticism that I was able to, see on whether it was WrestleMania, that amazing finish to that goofy scramble tag match they did at the beginning, to what he was able to do with Kevin Owens, what he was able to do with Cena, what he was able to do throughout the course of the year. Just jaw-dropping strength and balance and everything that he's able to do, to me, is just, he's incredible.
So, Cena or Lethal, your choice.
I'm going to go Lethal because I think Cena. I think Cena has more to work with, and Lethal had to do.
Do you ever think you'd hear that? Cena has more to work with than Lethal. I mean, when you look at the respective promotions, like I don't know, would you ever think WWE would give Cena more to work with than Ring of Honor would have for Lethal?
Well, just think about it in terms of production and promotion.
I'm just even quality of match. I mean, it's more of a testament to the type of guy that WWE has brought in to work on their shows. Is my point.
Yeah.
Like who would have thought we'd be in a position where Sami Zayn, Kevin.
They fed a lot of good guys to Cena. Don't get me wrong, and his overall match quality was certainly helped by that. And not that Lethal worked with stiffs. Don't get me wrong, but because he had again memorable matches through the course of the year with his standout matches when he won the world title over Jay Briscoe, when he had the 3-match series with Roderick Strong, and when he completely defeated AJ Styles clean in the middle, 1, 2, 3 at Final Battle, no doubt about it. Put that puppy to rest. Lethal to me stands out in that moment from a quality standpoint, but I just think overall what he was able to do with Make Me Care, he got, put it this way, with what he said, with what Lethal said to Jerry Lynn, and with the way he finished off AJ Styles in Philly using Jerry's cradle pile driver, then the lethal injection, and staring down at Jerry Lynn, everybody immediately thought we were going towards Jerry Lynn versus Jay Lethal. So we had to put the brakes on that very quickly the next day. Jerry Lynn is not wrestling. Sorry. But that's how good Lethal is, like just everything he touches. So right. Lethal gets the nod from me because I've seen, it's easy for Cena to be able to do this and to be able to work with that. But God, he was pulling angles out of Jerry Lynn, for Christ's sake. So
I think correlation between the two guys too is almost a renaissance to both of them. Lethal and Cena both felt like they were great names and respected workers, but both felt like they had plateaued a little bit. Wouldn't you agree? In 2014, both kind of felt like, all right, Cena just kind of does his thing. Lethal, all right, he's doing this thing of truth. Just kind of, all right, he's turning heel. But, he's old reliable, Jay Lethal. Everyone loves him. This is a macho man. And then all of a sudden, here we go, 2015, Lethal's turning it on. Promo work, really accelerates from beyond just the kind of goofy impersonation stuff. And all of a sudden, he's a bankable draw. John Cena becomes indie worker, dream match superstar. Reinvents himself as a guy that can come in and have these matches with guys like Owens and Zayn and Cesaro, and all of a sudden he's having matches you never thought would happen. that people maybe wanted to see 10 years ago. Even maybe eventually Samoa Joe maybe comes up and does the same thing. So it's like Cena's all of a sudden having all these great matches with these indie super workers that you just never thought could occur, and reinvented himself in that way too. So I think there's a lot of parallels between the two.
And a lot of the guys that Cena worked with were about the rub going both ways. Right?
Oh, yeah.
The inexperienced name showing that they can hang with John Cena. But at the same time, it was also showing that John Cena has the ability to go with these younger, quote unquote, more athletic, quote unquote, better wrestlers, whatever. So the rub works both ways. With Lethal, it wasn't about the rub for me. With Lethal, it was about getting the best match out. It was about telling the best story. It was about making people care about every title challenger had a hope of winning. Mm-hmm. And there were a lot of times along the way where people were like, oh, I think Lethal's going to lose and it's too soon. He didn't lose, but he made you think he was going to, which is his job. And his job is completely different than John Cena's. Mm-hmm. His job more in line with what Seth Rollins had to do, but Seth Rollins needs an army of help at this point to be able to do it because he's not there yet. So,
all right, what's your best match? I mean, I think yours is going to probably vary greatly only because you're at ringside for so many of these things. But what was the best match in your mind? And there might be a couple, but just off the top of your head that you saw this year.
Probably the best. It's still the best. I think it's still the best match I've ever seen live, and that was at Best in the World when Lethal beat Jay Briscoe for the world title. It was perfect. There was not one misstep. There was not one mistimed anything. It had every bit of emotion because of the families on opposite sides of the ring. It was about two great champions and one guy looking to become an undisputed champion, the other one looking to cement his legacy as, two-time defending world champion who hadn't been beaten in over 2 years. Just remarkable. That match had everything to me in 2015 and was my favorite. There were a lot of others that challenged it, but that, to me, was my favorite match of the year.
All right, so I get a few. A couple are ones that I saw live, so I think that probably helps. Another couple from TV. So we'll start with the TV ones. The first John Cena-Kevin Owens match, to me, was, I thought their best. It came out of nowhere because no one knew really what to expect from Cena, and that kind of is what started this whole turnaround and run for him, because maybe he had the Rusev series that was kind of up and down. The match at the Rumble, and then all of a sudden he's fighting Kevin Owens, and boom, he's into this indie dream worker guy. But that first match with Owens, I believe, was it Elimination Chamber? I don't know, Dan, maybe you can spot me on that. I think that was their first one. That was just tremendous. I think that was the show that they made out of a house show. I think was the Chamber. That was their first fight. So
that was Owens' first real match with the company on the big roster.
Right.
Was Elimination Chamber,
right.
Non-title.
And then, of course, NXT had so many that it's hard to keep track. I think the best that I remember seeing is the Sasha Bayley and Pick'em. I mean, the Iron Woman was great, and also the one where Bayley won the belt, the big emotional moment there. Honestly, I think you probably have like 10 Sasha matches on the list. And by the way, we do a complete disservice by not mentioning her in the category of Best Wrestler of the Year. I think she's in that boat with Rollins, with Cesaro, with Roddy Strong. I think Sasha has to be in that category, female or male. It doesn't matter. I think she was one of the best workers in WWE TV at all in 2015. Brock and Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, because everyone was expecting a fart bomb. They all thought Reigns would be awful. They thought Brock was going to kill him. And then, boom, we get this awesome match where Reigns is getting the shit kicked out of him, and he keeps coming back. And then the great swerve with Rollins winning at the end. So those are kind of my TV choices, my two live choices. And this is probably my 1A for Match of the Year, and they happened on back-to-back days in Philadelphia. The first happened on Saturday night, and that was the Bullet Club of AJ Styles and the Young Bucks against ACH, Matt Sydal, and Cedric Alexander, which is the main event of that Philly show we went to. That was just next level watching that thing live. Just madness, craziness all over the place, flying around with a great finish with the Styles Clash. And it was the first time I saw the Bucks live as well. And then the next day at the Rumble was Brock Lesnar, John Cena, Seth Rollins, which I was out of my mind for. One of the best matches I think I've ever seen live. Tremendous across the board. The booking of it, the action, I think that was Rollins' like I've arrived moment, being in that feud and being in that match before he won the belt. No one really pictured him, being able to hang with those guys. They were like shocked that he was even in the mix, and all of a sudden, boom, he's hanging and he looks believable with Cena and Brock. So I thought, to me, those are the two best matches I saw, both live, and they're my 1A with Sasha Bayley, Brock Roman, and Cena Owens is my 3 after that. And again, I really want to qualify. I've mainly just watched WWE for most of the year, unless there's a couple ROH shows I saw live. Just time crunch. So I haven't seen a ton of other stuff this year outside of that.
I watched the Brock. There's two matches that stood out for me in terms of WWE this year. One you just mentioned, that Brock Rollins Cena match. Just the moments where you thought you'd forgotten about Brock, and here he comes. You thought he was dead, and just came back to life at just the right moment in time. Just amazing stuff. The other one too that I don't think gets enough love and for its controversy, but I've seen already how it's shaping the industry is Brock and the Undertaker with the disputed finish, and I really loved that match. I thought that was amazing. I thought it was a physical, just barn burner, war, everything you'd want in that kind of match, and didn't look like the same Undertaker that had wrestled Brock at WrestleMania the year before. And everything was back on track, and I loved it. I thought it was great.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
I think 24 hours after that finish, I was probably a little conflicted about it, but now over time, I really like it.
How about the Hell in a Cell match? Did you like that one better, or you think the SummerSlam still stands out?
No, I like the first one better.
Yeah,
and felt like the cage was kind of in the way.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think they needed again, knowing where they were going to go with the trilogy, I didn't think they needed it, but they did it, and it was perfectly fine, for what it was. But I just felt like there were more moments to me in, as they sat up and they're laughing at each other, and then as they went into the finish with the way there were a couple of things that were not right, and a lot of the heat, in my opinion, as far as the judgment of that match goes, the referee, a lot of down points that I might take away from it go to the referee. But there was just so much cool innovation with two guys as they just completely beat the shit out of one another. So I thought it was the most interesting, different, and dynamic match of the year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I saw that one live too, so I definitely had strong ties to that one. I'll tell you, this might have been my best overall quality year of seeing wrestling live in a long time. Just some of the matches and shows I saw. And I think, when you really look at it as a whole, for all the crap the booking gets for wrestling these days, and I think it comes down to the sheer volume of WTV that there's so much of it to fill. But for pure match quality, 2015 has to be one of the best years in history from just snowflakes, just pure in-ring match ratings week to week. The weeks don't go by where you have another match of the year or at least match of the month candidate every day almost. I feel like there's another one being churned out, whether it's an indie, whether it's ROH, or even in TNA here and there, or whether it's Beyond Wrestling, PWG, and then WWE, NXT. Like, there's so many week to week, and we're not even, I don't think we're even scratching the tip of the iceberg with some of our choices here. Dan, any we haven't mentioned that you'd throw in the mix?
Well, there was that indie show you and I went to in which Tommaso Ciampa faced off against Hansen, which was
that was a great table bump.
The great ROH invasion angle, and Kevin dancing.
I'm saving that for my worst promotional decision of the year.
That was awesome. And shut up.
Yes. One of the things that I remember just very recently from what I've just watched was the triple threat ladder match from TLC. Was one of these matches where I don't know if I've ever said, "Oh my God," more in a 15-minute stretch, and all those crazy bumps. Whether you agree with them or not, it was still to be live. Selfishly, it was a very entertaining matchup. And of course, I'm a big New Day mark, so of course it was great to see them win in front of a Boston crowd that just was dying to see them win. And but all the other guys in that match, the Usos, always put on good shows when we see them live. And of course the Lucha Dragons, that was a big spot for them, and they looked good. And that Kalisto looks like a guy that we could be talking about down the road as one of these guys that maybe not like a main eventer, but certainly a guy that you can't wait to see on a weekly basis if they book him correctly. And I saw a lot of the shows live that you saw, Justin, and that triple threat at the Rumble was great, made up for a horrible Rumble, and and that Ring of Honor show was probably the only Ring of Honor I've watched, sadly, all year. But it was a great show for those 3 hours. It was really hard to find a weak spot during the entire evening.
Mm-hmm. except for D'Amato farting in the crowd. That was the weak spot. All right, so I think we pretty much talked on most improved. I think Roddy and Cesaro kind of have that locked up. Again, I feel really gross that we didn't mention Sasha because I had her on my list here. We just talked right over it. But most underrated, anyone we haven't mentioned yet, Kev, as far as, this may be a good one for you since a lot of guys you see week to week or month to month on shows you're calling that you're seeing isn't really getting the love they should be getting?
Well, I think just from an entertainment standpoint, Dan mentioned New Day, and to me, they don't get the credit, I think, for their improvements that they've made and how they've kind of brought out the best of each other along the way.
And the Kofi
to me,
heel
they
turn,
are one of
people have been waiting for that Kofi heel turn for like 6 years.
Yeah, I think they're at that most complete level that they've each individually been in their careers. And I'm just thrilled for their success. Obviously Sasha, because we overlooked her, and I think that she's the best women's wrestler in the world, which, is kind of like being, the best shoemaker nowadays. It's there's not an appreciation for women's wrestling the way that there is for men's wrestling, because the way the divas have been treated and the way the divas have been positioned for so long that they've taken a lot of that away. So while you can't put Genie back in the bottle or toothpaste back in the tube, you can have great women's wrestling. And Sasha Banks is certainly that. She is fantastic. And for that, she kind of gets the underrated nod for me.
All right, what was your show of the year, Kev? I don't know. I remember liking WrestleMania a lot. I thought SummerSlam top to bottom was really, really good, being there live. TLC, surprisingly enough, ended up being one of the better shows of the year, too. But I think Mania is probably my overall show of the year.
I mean, just from a presentation standpoint and what they were able to do, that, I'm really looking forward to being at Wrestle Kingdom Live in a couple, in a week, just to be able to say, this is, New Japan's equivalent to WrestleMania and what they do with the big stage and the entrances and things like that. Because my big takeaway from SummerSlam this year, I just marveled at the artistic side and how they were able to put, this Cirque du Soleil feel onto the biggest wrestling event of the year.
Yeah, and with SummerSlam too, expanding to the 4 hours, everyone was worried with the Jon Stewart stuff, and that ended up being, pretty solid. I thought they did a good job with that show when the expectations were up and down, and then Brock Taker over-delivering. And yeah, Mania, I think Reigns Brock over-delivered as well, and that turned a lot of people positively in that show too. So I think those are the two best shows, in my mind, of the year.
And my favorite Ring of Honor show of the year, my favorite one was the show we did in Brooklyn. Just because that was the most unique atmosphere that had the best wrestling, and it was just a beautiful starry night.
Oh, then you couldn't have chosen better weather than we got that night. Just perfect.
It was, August, and it was 70 and no humidity in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
So for me, that was my favorite. Being able to have, Kerry Silkin back at ringside after missing some time with the back injury. That was great, having him back when he returned to Ring of Honor and just having so I didn't care for the venue in New York for Best in the World, but that was a special night. That was great. And Final Battle was to me was the best pay-per-view event that Ring of Honor has ever produced from top to bottom. Mm-hmm. From match quality, production, everything. That show was almost flawless.
I saw a lot of positive comments about wow, this is the best lighting they've ever had, or this is the best, looking show they've ever done. So that was good. Seems like that's stepped up there.
So best live was Philly, and then the best overall show for me was Final Battle.
So how about just in general? Well, let's do worst. What is your worst kind of booking promotional decision of the year? I think one of mine is you know, I was talking about this too with a couple of guys on this, Steve Willie, Chad Campbell. We're kind of chatting about this, but TNA taping months of TV in a week, and then you'd get guys that were like gone but still on TV, and then all the nonsense with the tournament, guys not even knowing if they were in the series, and matches showing out of order that weren't taped as part of it. Just all the worst of like 1990 AWA or 1989 AWA, you know, the tag challenge series and all that crap. This seeping into what's supposed to be, you know, in theory, the number 2 promotion. Clearly not. But to me, that was one of the worst we got this year.
I'll give them a pass just because everything in their world was turmoil and chaos this year, and I hope in 2016 they settle down and can get back to business and, you know, get off life support and just move forward in a new direction. Yeah, they paid it off 24 hours later, but God, I hated how they screwed over Roman Reigns. They paid it off 24 hours later. I got it. But damn, if that's the only event you're watching the whole year, how many I'm disgusted. I'm never watching it again. You know, very few, I'm sure. But just an over-reliance on never giving the people what they want. Mm-hmm. And I that's the one example that I can think of that was just egregious and just really felt like, luckily they paid off everything at the end of the year. That Reigns got every bit of it coming back to him. But along the way, man, I'll tell you what, they tested your fandom because it was tough to watch. It was just like, why are they just intentionally screwing this guy over and over and over again when he should just quit? Because this is ridiculous.
Right.
You know? But
well, and then even like, you know, you want to bitch about like the Daniel Bryan stuff, but in the end they were kind of proven right not to trust him. You know what I mean? I think their biggest mistake, and I'll stand by this forever, is that they should have never brought him back for the Rumble. They did Reigns a complete disservice. They should have just lied and said he was still hurt and brought him back like in February, and then you can still do exactly what you did. Do the Fastlane match to put over Reigns, but putting Bryan in the Rumble only raised expectations that he was going to win the Rumble, and that is what turned the fans. I don't think that fan reaction is anywhere near what happened or what went down if Bryan's not even in the Rumble to begin with. So I think that was their big mistake there.
The other thing that bothers me is not just about wrestling, but it's about society in general. It's that political correctness is run amok, and that the minute the WWE even sensed like a little bit of negative pushback on Charlotte, and referencing Reed,
that was going to be my other one. Yes,
that was the use of it, or the fact that they retreated from it.
Both. If you're gonna go that far, you could at least make it count. And they completely wasted it. I mean, if you're gonna have the balls and you're gonna take the shot, don't a week later forget it happened and then turn page face. I mean, that's pretty much what they did. Either go for it or don't do it. You know,
right.
Either way. And I think it was coming out. What came out afterwards with Flair saying he didn't know and all this other stuff. And the fact that you knew they were never going to pay it off right because they just didn't care enough about the feud to make it count. I think it was dumb to ever do it. Do it if it's going to count. Don't do it if you're just going to blow it on a useless angle.
True, but my fear is, did they get cold feet and change their mind and make everybody look like a shithead?
I don't know, because they turned Charlotte pretty quick after it. Like I don't think they put that whole thing together to turn her heel and have the stuff with Rick come in, and I feel like they kind of maybe had it planned a little bit. I don't know, maybe not.
I felt like it was just a PC reaction to whatever. And, listen, everybody does dumb stuff. And especially when you're young, you do dumb stuff. But if people are going back and they're dredging up old memories, old things that were said on Twitter, and they're now turning around in retrospect, retroactively firing people, it seems like.
Right.
I don't know. I find that to be bad. You either go back in time and you vet everyone, and then you say they're vetted. We stand by our decision, or you don't hire them. You can't go back in time and say, oh, well, we think this is unfortunate, so therefore we're going to fire them. Well, you've already looked into them.
Right.
And the big case in mind was Seth Rollins' girlfriend.
Right, but do you think that happens if Hulk Hogan doesn't go out and start? I think maybe I'm wrong. I think the Hogan thing happened first, right? So if that happened first, does she ever really get canned? If the Hogan thing isn't so high profile, I'm not saying what she did was right or she should be defended, but I feel like people don't care as much if we're not worried about all the blowback from Hogan.
Right. Certainly Hogan's what he said and all of that coming out. I just think it's kind of a hypocritical stance. But if that was the launching pad for the new policy, then everybody sort of has to be, I don't know. Then I just don't like it. To me, it's political correctness. And they are really, no one can get heat anymore. Nobody can say anything to hurt anybody's feelings.
It's across
Nobody
the board,
can do
though.
anything.
It's not just wrestling. I mean, it's everything.
That's what I mean. It's everything. It's everything nowadays. And forgive me, I'm getting over being sick. It's everything nowadays. And that's just to me, it's just unfortunate from a lot of things in life.
But yeah, I mean, even the going back and not knowing where to draw the line. Look at this Peyton Manning thing is like perfect example, right? So he's getting accused of having used HGH in 2011. Well, it wasn't illegal in the NFL in 2011. The testing and the policy didn't come till later. So if he did use, can they punish him retroactively? It's kind of like what happened with baseball where these names were leaked and they shouldn't have been, but you're kind of punishing them for it. And you got guys that never fail tests that are banned from the Hall of Fame, like all this other stuff. Not banned, but whatever, not being inducted. I think it's just a gray area in all walks of life right now due to the growing nature of social media and being everything we do, being out in front of everyone else and not being able to get away with, one of my favorite examples is like sports writers or sports radio talk show hosts or, whatever, that back in the day could get away with saying whatever because there wasn't an easy way to fact check them or call them out. So you could get a guy saying, so-and-so player was better than so-and-so player. Well, okay, well, I really have no... But now if they say that, well, I can immediately go to 15 different websites and prove why you're wrong, and I'm going to call you out for being stupid for saying it. And, like so much has changed over the last decade in that space, whether it's, outing your skeletons, whether it's calling you out for something stupid you said wrong, for a slip-up. The world has changed so much in that area, and it encapsulates all of this. And that leads back to the point of you can't get heat necessarily because it's so much easier to get called out, and you don't want to get called out. So you're not going to take the risk to screw up or to put yourself in a position to maybe get over through a different means because you might get called out for the wrong reason. And not to discount fan opinion, right? And the ticket buyer is always right. The customer is always correct. But I think that there's too much emphasis on every company, whether it's a restaurant or whatever, worried about Yelp reviews, worried about social media buzz, negativity, going to hurt business, blah, 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 blah. I just think there's too much in that. Now, we've gotten way off the track of wrestling. But I think, again, when we're talking about a public company, what are they more interested in? Are they more interested in their public perception based around their publicly traded, viewpoint of themselves in the world? Or are they more interested in entertaining their fan base? Because if they were more interested in entertaining their fan base, they wouldn't give a crap about political correctness. They would run right along the razor's edge of political correctness, which was something that I always thought wrestling was at its best when it did. It would cross the line and then come back and all the way through. The Attitude Era was about pushing that boundary and seeing how far you could go over the edge of political correctness before you get kicked off the air. But I don't know. I'm a little bit more of a throwback in that regard. And heightened sensitivities to me is just another example of the pussification of America. Okay. On that pussification, why don't we do some predictions for 2016. So we don't have to dive into these too deep, because we're going to have plenty of time to talk about them as the weeks go along. But why don't we just kind of do some quick hits? Dan, if you want to pop in on this too, we can kind of all three of us join in. So overall, across, we'll call it North American wrestling, because that's where we've really focused on here today. Who is your breakout star? So it could be a guy that, I think I'd consider like Cena as a breakout candidate for 15 because of what he's done in ring, really elevated his game, or it could be someone lower level. So you can really pick anyone, but you have to qualify why you're picking them. So who's the guy that you peg as being a breakout star for 2016?
I'll go outside the box, and I'll go with Shinsuke Nakamura, because I think in 2016 he's going to be, because I really think the New Japan scene in terms of America and its visibility is going to grow, and I think as that grows, his presence will grow, and I think he's going to be he's a soon to be household name for professional wrestling.
Dan, how about you?
Provided he can stay healthy, I think I might go with Sami Zayn. I think he's a guy that is already ready for the big time and ready to come up to the main roster. It's just a question of what they do with him once he gets there. But he's a guy that I thought was on the verge, but it is like we said earlier, his body betrayed him. If he does get derailed again, somebody else from NXT that I'm really enjoying watching so far and would love to see her emerge is Asuka. She's just been phenomenal to watch so far in some of the matches. I thought she had a great match recently in the TakeOver London against Emma, and she's just somebody that I want to see more on the screen.
So you say Asuka around here, and I just think Men on a Mission due to all the accents. I mean, that's how I picture.
It's Asuka. I love Asuka.
I love Asuka, Mabel, and Mo. My choice, I think, and I think I'm just going down with the ship, and I'm probably being super naive. So I think Cesaro. I think that finally 2016 will be the year, because all the word is that they realize they're running out of these legends to bring back and focus on, and they have to turn the page. And I think it's bearing itself out. We'll talk about this in a minute with Mania. I think at some point, they have to go to the younger guys. And I think they see Cesaro as a battle-tested guy who's been there for years now, has done whatever they've asked, does have that connection that they kind of said he doesn't. I think there's enough big names behind him. He's a Triple H guy. Steve Austin backs him. Paul Heyman backs him. Like, everyone's backing this guy. I think he finally finds the feud or angle that makes him click and takes the next step. And I think he's a guy that's at the top of the card a year from this year's Mania. So, April 2017. So, I don't know. Maybe I'm being naive and just hitching my wagon to a broken down ship, but I think it's finally the year for Cesaro.
I think there's a lot of people that are hoping that you're correct with that.
He deserves it. All right, so WWE Network subscriptions. I haven't seen the number recently. I think they're still around like 1.3. Will they still be in that? Have they maxed, next time this year? Will it be higher? Will it be lower? Will things dip? Or do you think they'll be right around this? Are they kind of where they're going to be going forward now?
I think it's gonna be higher, because I think lower gas prices will give people more disposable income. And I think with The Rock coming back, I think with The Rock coming back for WrestleMania, I think that it is going to boost. They've already gotten ahead of that. We know ahead of time he's going to be there. You've got all of January to start planning for it. He's going to be on the road to WrestleMania. I would say it'll be higher.
What do you think, Dan?
I think initially it's going to be higher for sure, leading right into Mania. I think now that they've started to add a lot more, I think a lot of the criticism early was, yeah, we're here, but you know what? They don't have this, they don't have that. And I think there's a lot fewer of those they don't have these anymore to complain about. And I think a lot of people are going to see that when they go and sign up at Mania, and maybe thinking that that's all they'll do. They'll take a look around and say, hey, you know what? There's a lot of stuff here that I can explore and devour. Why don't I just keep this for a little bit? And I think that's going to help a lot. I mean, we're seeing it a lot one of the huge criticisms a couple of years ago was, oh, well, where's all this territory stuff? And now look at that. Look what they're doing. They're adding a bunch of territory stuff. NXT continues to be probably the best original programming that they have. Say what you will about stuff like Swerved and all that crap. I don't watch it, but there is an audience for it. And yeah, I just think it's a heck of a deal. I think the only thing that could derail it is if they just decided one day that they wanted to change the price point. But where it is right now, I think it's still one of the best deals in this type of medium.
Right, and I still argue that they probably should have not put Mania on it to start. I think because you can't put the cat back in the bag now. That's one thing they could have done in the start, and I don't think anyone would have complained if every show except for Mania was on there. But I do think it'll go up as well because I think they're figuring it out still. Like, it takes time. They're at the kind of the edge of this technology, and more things are going that way, and you see them mentioned and lumped in and featured when they talk about cutting the cord and the different options. And, say what you want about the booking overall, but the special events more often than not are pretty much worth your time for the most part. And you're getting those almost as a bonus for a lot of people on top of everything else. So even if you're paying you $10 a month, you watch a special and a couple of other things here and there, it's worth your $10. Like Dan said, they're adding more and more. Now we're getting all those Raws. That's what a lot of people wanted. So we're almost through 2001 with all those Raws. And I think as they figure things out and put on more compelling stuff, they televise more house shows, do more stuff like Breaking Ground, and NXT continues to be such a big selling point too. So I think the number will go up. I'm not saying it's going to be gangbusters. Like, they're not going to gain millions, but I think they'll be incrementally higher than they are now versus maybe going any lower, unless the product just completely bottoms out. But I feel like they kind of have. Like, I don't know if they can go any lower with their core audience than they are already. So I think they can only go up as they continue to maybe sort through their shit and make the change. Kev, will TNA still be on Pop TV this time next year?
Yes, I think they will be. I think that Pop TV is very enthusiastic about their partnership with TNA. And I think they are going to I think they're in it for the long haul. I think TNA is around to stay.
Well, you got 90210, Dawson's Creek, and TNA. Man, that is a strong triple threat. And I am not being facetious. I'm being serious. I do think they'll last too, because I've just learned I'll never predict that they're going to die or be gone, because they still find a way to survive, and they're still signing talent, and they're still there. I mean, they still exist. And this is, we say this every time, but I mean, if they do not take advantage this time of completely overhauling the look and the style and the booking and the attitude, if they just show up on Pop with the same thing, then they've missed a golden opportunity. This is their perfect time for them to completely rebrand, and they need to take advantage because it may be the last shot. But I think they'll still be on there as well. What do you think, Dan?
They really are like a bad penny, or trying to get rid of cockroaches from an old apartment. Like, they just don't go away. And another example, they're like a bad rash, if you will. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I think we've been on the show now a couple of years, and we could probably do a montage of the number of times you or maybe Kevin has said, "Oh yeah, this is it. We're not going to have it anymore."
Well,
Vince going to buy it?
Even me and Scott on Place to Be. I feel like every year we did the naughty or nice or the prediction. I mean, that's going back to 2011. I feel like we're having the same discussion. Like, will TNA exist? It's like, here we are, asking the same question every year.
Yeah, so no, I'm not falling for that trap. I think they'll be. I don't know what type of network they could be. The same network. I don't know. I think we tried to figure out where to find it before, but yeah, no, I think they'll still exist for sure.
All right, really quick yes or no on this one, Kev. Will Mauro Ranallo still be calling SmackDown a year from today?
Yes.
Dan?
Yeah, why not? He likes the product.
Okay. Well, you never know. Sometimes these guys get in over their head and they hate Vince yelling in their ear, and then they walk off. So I think he will too. I think because he's a wrestling guy, at his core, he's not a guy coming into the world of wrestling. I think he'll last as well. Here's another quick one we can do. Will another promotion get a U.S., like a national level TV deal? Any of these indies, do they step up? Does anything find its way on the TV, or are we in the same spot next year? ROH, TNA, WWE.
I think there's an expansion coming. I'm buying that Shane Douglas group that's based in Las Vegas.
Is it going to be a cable deal, or is it like a streaming thing?
at least, well, I don't know. That's a good question. I got a feeling it's going to find its way onto a traditional television format as opposed to just a streaming thing.
I haven't read about it. What is this?
Classic Wrestling Revolution, I think it's called. And the money guy behind it is he's a billionaire. There's a trailer that's online. Roddy Piper was involved with it before his passing. They shot some pilot stuff. Jake Roberts is involved in it, and Shane Douglas is.
It's a wrestling promotion.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And just go check it out. I think it's going to be, it's unique, different, and we'll see. But I think that's I think that's going to be something that nobody's ever heard of. That could be, like a couple of years ago, nobody had ever heard of Lucha Underground.
Right.
And I think this is kind of one of those things. Like, and it's just a shot in the dark. But I think it's got something to it.
Dan, how about you?
Well, this one goes out to our boy Steve Willie. I'm going to go ahead and say Chikara. They're on their way up. They have a streaming channel already on Roku's. They're starting to get a little bit of a following. Their King of Trios is always pretty popular. It always brings back some nostalgia acts. They're doing DVDs now on Blu-ray, which was kind of amazing to me when I first saw a Chikara show in 2011. It was like, oh, this just looks like bingo hall stuff, but it looks like they're starting to get a little bit of a budget. I don't know who they're, eventually, if they're going to be, huge or whatever, but I think they're making kind of a move, or making moves similar to the idea, and some of their characters are now getting more recognizable. I'm not saying there's going to be a crossover with WWE or ROH or anything like that, and I know it's goofy as all get out at times, but I don't know. They look like a company that could be on the way up.
All right, here's our favorite one. Which legends will WrestleMania? I'm going to list off names. We'll all just say yes or no. We could take Rock off our list. Well, he's only said he's going to be there, but I mean, I think we all agree he's probably going to wrestle, right? If he's coming in, if he's making the time, he's probably going to wrestle. Everyone agree?
Okay.
Do you agree? No.
I don't know.
You think he's just going to be there? I
could see him just being there. But I think. What about Ronda Rousey?
All right, well, I'm going to get to the list. So let's just talk about The Rock first. Yes, so he'll be there. We know that. Wrestle, yes or no?
No.
Dan?
Yes.
I think he does, too. And I didn't think he would, like, a week ago. But I think if he's making a big deal about announcing he's going to be there, I think he's going to wrestle. Hulk Hogan, Kevin, yes, no, and then if it's yes, will he just be there or will he wrestle?
No, won't wrestle. Yes, he will be there.
Dan?
I just don't think the stink has been completely washed away yet. I say no on both.
I think he's there because I think they're running out of names. I think they're going to be desperate. Will and I had a big argument on the last Dangerous Alliance about this. He thinks they want nothing to do with him for a while. I don't know. I can see him coming back and giving his apology speech on Raw. I'm sorry, brother. I regret what I did, and you're my family, and WWE is my family. They're bringing me back, and I'm so blessed to be back. He's been quiet now for a while. You haven't heard anything from him. I think just in time for like February-ish, we're gonna, we have a big announcement on WWE Network on Raw, and it's Hogan comes out and gives his big apology and everything else. So I think it's coming. I think there's been enough time now, and I think enough people didn't want to see him even get fired in the first place. So I don't think there'll be as much blowback in an era in a society where we're quick to forgive these days. I think it's coming, and maybe it'll be a little tight for Mania, but I just think they're desperate enough for names that he'll at least be in the house. Kev, Steve Austin, there, and if he is, does he wrestle?
There, yes, definitely. Wrestling, no.
All right, I'm the same now. Dan, you?
There, yes. I don't think he wrestles, but I do think he does something in the physical realm, like he stuns a guy or maybe costs another. I don't know what the situation is, but maybe he costs somebody a win or something like that. But I think it's not just high wave to the crowd and then that's it. I think there's a little bit more to his appearance there.
All right, I think probably the same for Shawn Michaels. One of the ideas we had talked about in the past is maybe if they do wrestle, like maybe a Shawn and Austin tag team match against someone, like we had thrown out New Day as a possibility or something like that. I think Michaels in the same boat. I guess at this point, I think he's there and doesn't wrestle unless they find some kind of super hot program for him. I think Bryan would have been the guy, but we'll get to him in a minute. I can't think of anyone else that's like a die-hard, Shawn Michaels opponent that we need to see him wrestle. So what do you think, Kev?
Again, can see him involved. We saw him involved last year. I think there's always room for physical involvement when it comes to Shawn. But as far as putting a match together, putting a match on, no, I just don't see it.
Dan?
I'd love to see him get a little bit back on Brock, because it looks like every time Brock came back and interacted with Shawn was just getting pummeled or his arm broken or what have you. But
man, a Shawn Brock match would be super fun.
I think it's like one of those things that we might have missed that opportunity, but I'd love to see it. But I'm not sure if Shawn would be up for that type of abuse at this stage in the game. But yeah, he'll definitely be there for sure.
Brock is super. Everyone always says that. Like they said it about Bryan, can his neck hold up to a match with Brock? I feel like Brock is like he's never hurt anyone, and I feel like he knows what he's doing. Like you don't have to take 15 Germans for a match with Brock. They do it because the guys can take it, but like I don't think it's like everyone said about Undertaker. Like he's gonna wrestle Brock, he's gonna get killed. Like no, they were fine. Like I don't know. I think Brock knows what he's doing. Like I think he's one of the safest guys in theory to work with because he knows exactly what he's doing and he has no ego about it. Like he's just like whatever we'll do. They're paying me. I'll go out there and do whatever the fuck you want me to do. I'll wrestle whoever. I'll wrestle whatever kind of match. I'll do whatever you want. I'll protect the shit out of you. I'll throw you around like a rag doll. And so I don't know if it's like. It's like he's going to. It's not like we're saying Michaels and Ryback, like where there's a chance he may die, something like that physically. So, all right, how about Daniel Bryan, Kev?
I don't think we will ever see Daniel Bryan back on WWE TV again.
See, I feel like if he wasn't married to Brie Bella, I'd agree with you. And they want him to take a job as like a trainer. He wants to get that other opinion. I don't know. There's so much cloud around this. Is it real? Is it part of an angle? I mean, I guess I'm leaning towards no. He won't wrestle. I think he'll be there because I think he's still on a contract at that point. But I think at some point, I think he comes to some kind of agreement at some point where he can wrestle on the indies here and there, nothing on TV, but like it's a waiver, like dude, he's not liable, but that he stays around as like a coach or whatever for NXT and helps him down there. I don't know. There's a lot of ifs. What do you think, Dan? Does he wrestle at Mania?
I don't think he wrestles, and I think he's the type right now that he doesn't want to do a supplementary role or just a wave of the hand or, I'll be a ref or something like that. I think if Bryan isn't allowed to wrestle, I don't think he'll want to be there. And I don't know. I mean, the other example, if talking about spouses and whatnot being in the company and what have you would be CM Punk and AJ. And AJ was around and CM Punk wasn't coming back anytime soon. So. But I understand the point, but I don't know.
But Brie is like entrenched in the like Nikki and Cena. They're all a big family to me. It's I don't know. To me, that's different than like AJ, who was kind of like whatever. They could kind of let her go. Like she has no other ties. But like the Bellas are so deep in the veins of WWE at this point. She was a bigger star in their eyes than Bryan. You know what I mean? Like AJ wasn't a bigger star than Punk.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I just don't see that relationship getting any better in time for Mania.
I don't think it's as fractured as everyone thinks it is. I mean, I think he's angry, but like I think they respect him enough, and I think eventually he's going to realize he needs to just do what's best for himself. And I think he takes the gig. I think he ends up working as a trainer in the developmental center or as an agent. I think there's too much tie-in with him and his family as part of the company. But all right, how about Goldberg? He's the name that's picking up steam lately as to they're trying to get on a contract. To me, he's always another guy, too, that's been about the money. I think if they pay him, he'll be there. I think he comes, and I think he wrestles. I think he's their big ace in the hole besides Rock. I think Goldberg's their guy.
I think he will be there, but he will not wrestle.
See, I don't see the point in having him there if he's not going to wrestle. Like, I don't think an appearance by Goldberg is enough. I think a match by Goldberg, his first in 30 in 10 years, is enough. I don't think just him coming out waving is anything.
Trying to get 100,000 people in the building, so I don't know if a match is going to sell more tickets, but they're going to load it up with every name they possibly can get.
I just think at least if you're saying Goldberg's going to wrestle so-and-so, it's something. it adds to the show. I just think Goldberg being there to me is like, okay, well, whatever. Like, what's he going to go in the Hall of Fame and just wave for the crowd? I don't know. Like Goldberg, the threat of Goldberg spearing someone to me, like Austin coming out and giving a stun or something. I just think Goldberg, the novelty is seeing him wrestle for the first time in a decade. And one of these guys has to wrestle. I mean, one of them. That's in their minds. You know what I mean? I'd be fine with no one, but one of these guys does, and we're checking them off, and none of them are. So I think Goldberg is the guy. I don't think they pay him. My point is, I don't think he's moving enough tickets to pay him just for an appearance. Like, if they're paying him, he's got to come into the ring. That in their minds, I think. What do you think, Dan?
Well, does he hit a spear on somebody? Sure.
Yeah, but to me, that's not a draw. Like, anyone, whatever. Like, they're going to sell what they're going to sell anyway. Like, it's like we talk about the indie shows. Like, where you're already bringing in Ric Flair and Sting. Why do you have to pay Carlito to come in, too? Like you know, it's like, so we already have Brock. We already have Rock. We already have Austin and Michaels. What's Goldberg waving to the crowd and maybe spearing, you know, Big E having to do? Now, if he has a match with Big E, okay, that to me, that's like, okay, you're kind of making it worth it. But you already have 9 legends waving to the crowd. What's the point of the 10th?
Yeah, I agree. I think Goldberg is there, and I think Goldberg wrestles. I don't know who you put him with necessarily. I think it has to be kind of a squash, though. I mean, who knows what? I know he's probably in decent condition, but you know, if even if he interrupts some Miz TV that's really dragging and really annoying and kills him, then that's fine with me too. But I would love to see him wrestle because you're absolutely right. They've kind of exhausted a lot of these names, these kind of throwbacks, whether it be, you know, Rock or Batista or some of these others that have come and gone. And it's not nearly as much of a novelty to see somebody like Stone Cold in a ref shirt or stun somebody for no reason. But Goldberg, we haven't seen in a while. And I think that's the guy that if you're going to run a nostalgia act, he's the one that people haven't seen in a while, but still know who he is. And now with the network, seeing all these Nitros and WCW pay-per-view moments, I'm tending to agree with you that he would be the guy that if you're going to put money, you know, back up the truck full of money, he's the guy that you probably want to see if none of these other guys are going to be able to wrestle.
All right, Kurt Angle. What do you think, Kev?
No, I say no.
What do you think, Dan?
I want to say yes. I really do. Just for the sake of this activity. Yeah, sure.
I don't think Kurt is as over and as revered to the WWE hierarchy as Kurt and his fans might think that he is.
So this is where I see Kurt coming in. So there's a dearth of names for them, whether it's for the Hall of Fame, you know, or anything else. There's like a lack of guys to induct. Kurt Angle has announced that he's retiring from TNA. Never said retiring from wrestling. He's retiring from TNA in January. Perfect timing that you just happen to have a stable of foreign heels running a menace on the card, on the roster. And none of them are really going to be in a position to be like in a main event. So I could see them doing something at WrestleMania, whether it's cutting a promo or maybe they win an 8-man, and then here comes All-American Kurt Angle and like beats the crap out of Sheamus or something. Like, I don't know. That I can see. That's where I could see Angle being the surprise at Mania. Because I'm kind of with you, Kev. I don't know if his name is a draw, but like as a big shock coming out, I think he'd get a monster pop if that music hit and he came out and beat the crap out of some foreign guys. Like, I think that's where his allure is. And then maybe he does the Sting run where he has a couple matches here or there with guys.
Then gets a broken neck.
Well, he's already got 3 of them.
Broken freaking neck.
All right. Last one, Ronda Rousey.
Done and done. She's in.
You think so?
Yep.
What do you think, Dan?
Depends. Will she have her head kicked off again by the time we get to Mania?
I thought she's good at the movie, though. I thought she couldn't be there.
That's what I always heard, too, is that she would be tied up with some sort of movie or what have you. My feeling is it's almost like Mike Tyson after getting knocked out by Douglas. If she were to go down again prior to Mania, I don't see them necessarily going that
fighting
route.
She can't fight until like July. She's on like medical suspension or whatever. So she's not going to lose again before Mania. That's a guarantee.
Right. So, I mean, there's a relationship there, obviously, from what we saw from the previous Mania. I could see it, but I'm not sure if it's the same effect or appeal as it was a year ago at that, from when she appeared that briefly with Stephanie and Triple H the year before.
Just
I could be wrong, though.
Think about the ESPN moment when she kicks who and knocks them out or taps them out in very quick fashion. Think about all the ESPN highlights that'll play. They'll never once say it's worked. They'll put it over as legit. It's the best media exposure she could get on the road to her rematch with Holly in July.
I think there's more. See, for a long time, I thought they were going to do something that was like a tag, or her and Stephanie are in Rock and Triple H's corner. Like I thought we'd have more of that. So now I think she's just in the crowd if she's there and doesn't really participate, because I think if she had won, maybe. But with the build to the rematch, and remember, all the talk about why she got her ass kicked was that she hadn't focused on the championship. She's doing too much other stuff. She's bought into the star hype. And I think she's kind of image conscious. So I can see her not wanting to do anything that makes it seem like she's jeopardizing her big rematch in July. And I think Dana White feels the same way. So if she's not doing the movie and she could be there, I think she's in attendance in the crowd at the most. I don't think she gets involved physically or in any kind of storyline this year, because I think the whole focus is on her trying to regain the belt.
Very fair.
All right. Last one real quick, and then we'll move along here. So kind of all in one, which surprising WWE star will leave the company in 2016? And will any of the top NXT stars still be in NXT at this time? And will any major ROH star jump and have a big run somewhere? So kind of 3 in 1, if you just want to throw out a few names.
Daniel Bryan.
Is he really surprising, though? I've heard more people that are like you than me out there that think he's gone.
CM Punk.
Come on. I'm gonna say.
How about this? Nobody's saying anything about Shane coming back.
You think Shane's a big surprise coming back?
Yeah. With Dad in the mix again, I think that's more likely than anybody leaving.
Does Dolph Ziggler count as a big name leaving?
Nope.
Yeah, he's another guy no one would be surprised about. I don't know. I can't. Yeah, I don't know any. I feel like they'd all come out of nowhere. It would be something crazy like Dean Ambrose or something. You know what I mean? Like, so that would be like a big, like, kind of crazy shock one. But no, yeah, everyone seems pretty content where they're at. I mean, besides a guy like Dolph, I'll say Miz. Maybe Miz finally moves on and does something else. That'll be my prediction.
Okay.
I don't know how much I buy it, but if I had to just like throw out a random name that would maybe catch people off guard because he seems so confident and happy with what he does, I could see him maybe moving on to other things.
Yeah, I see Rusev leaving and making beautiful blonde Bulgarian babies with Lana, and they'll live happily ever after. They'll forget about this whole thing, and no, I'm just kidding. I'd like to hope that someone like Finn Balor isn't still in NXT by this time next year. I'd like to think that he'd have something to do on the main roster. That would be a real disappointment, I think, if they've been kind of pushing him to the moon and he has this crazy entrance and he dresses up and the makeup and all that. You would think that there would be a spot on the main roster for somebody like that. And he's putting on decent matches, at least with some of his friends that are down there. But yeah, I mean, he's a guy that I would, if we're sitting here and we're still talking about Finn Balor still at NXT, that would be just terrible for him. He'd probably be back overseas, I would think.
I think a guy that could fit both categories, either leaving or still being in NXT, is a Tommy when he comes back from injury. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they keep him down there through the end of the year, and I wouldn't be surprised if he just says, kind of, F it, I'm going back to Japan. So I'd throw him in either category. How about ROH, Kev? I don't know if you're in, you don't have to talk about it if you don't want to, but anyone you kind of see maybe in a positive way moving on, or,
well, Mike and Maria are, so
yeah, that's
a given.
Is that official with TNA yet?
No, I don't think they've made anything officially known, but that's
okay. I thought I saw something on Twitter. Maybe not.
From them? From TNA?
No, not from TNA. I thought I saw something that said they signed with TNA.
Yeah, it's all the last thing I understood, nothing had been officially agreed to yet, but that there were kind of handshakes on both sides that said, if this is what you guys want to do, then that's cool, and we'll see. As far as I had known, nothing was signed. They could turn around and change their minds and come back if they wanted to. I don't think they will at this point. I think they're gonna give it a shot, and they're gonna see what else is out there.
What do you think, Dan? Any other names or anything you want to talk
about? No, although I do suspect that there could be, a roster purge. I don't think we've really had one in a while, like not a significant one. Like back in the day, we saw, a couple of years ago, we saw the end of a lot of guys. Just, you watch the Rumble and it was like, cool. And then a few weeks later, oh my gosh, all those guys are gone, or some of those guys are gone. So that's only good news for some of these smaller companies and indie promotions. I mean, we've seen some other guys really recuperate outside of the WWE umbrella, but I don't know. I just feel like we're due. I think they might want to try and bring up some of these NXT guys, and when those guys come up, there's got to be a spot to take. And I guess it really depends on how they prioritize their television. But I wouldn't be shocked though to hear of like various guys that have been around for a while just kind of collecting checks all of a sudden find themselves somewhere else.
I will go in another direction, and in addition to them bringing back Shane McMahon, I see Kurt Angle returning at WrestleMania with Team Angle. Thank you.
Oh, that'd be an interesting one. Maybe They tie it in. They could do something with Gable and Jordan from NXT. So maybe they don't show up at Mania. Maybe it's something where Gable and Jordan come up to the main roster, and whether it's either a feud or a kind of a passing of the torch with Team
Could do that. Yeah. Charlie lives in Dallas, so it's easy. Shelton Benjamin, I do want to start the rumor now that Shelton Benjamin is expected to be one of the entrants in the Royal Rumble. It's the annual thing.
Yes, him and Papa Shango.
Right. So so I do want to start that. But yeah, I think we can continue to speculate on that in the weeks to come. But I think what we've seen is we had a pretty good 2015, and we're kind of looking forward to a 2016. If you guys had like a gut feeling, thumb up, thumb down, thumb in the middle as far as what you expect 2016 to be overall, where would you see it?
I'm optimistic. I'll say things get better because I think the base and the core is there. This isn't like a downtime where like 06 where things felt kind of really bland and you were like, where's everything? Like I still feel like everything is in place when you look at the talent they have, that it just takes like one thing to light the rocket and make things explode. And I don't know, maybe that happens 2016. I feel like it's like 98 where like the pieces are there. They have them there. The puzzle the Rubik's Cube hasn't been solved yet.
McGinn?
I am always optimistic. I mean, hence that smile that you see all the time. So, yeah, I definitely think we're in for a great one.
McGinn's Skype picture, as I see on my screen, always smiling. Justin Rosero's picture, two smiling faces, however, not him or his beautiful wife. It's another loving couple. And that picture always just makes me laugh. I definitely vote thumbs up right now. I think the business is red hot right now. I think a lot of guys are, guys need to seize that entrepreneurial spirit like the Young Bucks have done and go for it. So I think they could do it without the WWE. And I hope that a lot of guys are, don't feel like they need to. But again, once you're in that bubble and that secure window, it feels good and it's hard to walk away. So I'm very optimistic for professional wrestling going forward in its new incarnation. The business that we, those of us that grew up in the 70s and 80s, that business is over, dead and buried. It's now, modern performance art. But I think the appreciation for the performance art is higher than ever. So, all right, guys. Now, we said that we were going to take a we opened it up for some thoughts. Anybody that they wanted to hear, like special interview to end 2015 with, all the great interviews that we had during the year. We got a lot of great feedback, JR, but I think we chose one that I know we chose one that I'm really happy with. So I'm really looking forward to hearing it again.
Yeah, so here's just to recap. Here's everyone we talked to this year: Carrie Silkin, Mark Briscoe, Brian Blair, Stevie Richards, Jay Briscoe, Moose, Truth Martini, Matt Taven, Blue Meanie, Dr. Tom, Steve Carino, Dusty. Well, our tribute to Dusty Rose, of course. Dr. Tom was in on that one. Todd Sinclair, Del Wilkes, The Patriot, Jay Lethal, Adam Cole returned to chat with us, Matt Stryker, Ray Rowe, Christopher Daniels, and the one we chose here based on both feedback from our listeners and kind of the brain trust here was our chat with Dan Spivey, and that happened back in September. It's Kevin Kelly Show, episode number 43, and we thought it was a good pick because it's unique. It's a guy that hasn't been making the rounds. We talked about Del Wilkes. He's kind of been on a bunch of shows, but Spivey really was pretty unique to us. He had some ties to you from your time in Florida, and it really fits the theme of the show. It's a wrestler that has found a life after wrestling, has really turned things around, fought back from some really awful alcohol and drug addictions, some injuries, and really turned his life and gotten it back on track. And that from day one, Kev, that was the theme of the show. So we thought our chat with Dan Spivey was a good one to kind of revisit here. It's not the whole interview, it's just a portion of it. So after the break, we're going to play that for you, and then we'll come back with some live thoughts and wrap up the year. So that'll come up for you after the break here.
All right, so enjoy the interview. And this is the Kevin Kelly Show on Place to Be Nation, PlaceToBeNation.com.
Place to Be Nation's Justin Rosero here. In addition to the Kevin Kelly Show, we have a ton of great podcasts available to you on iTunes and PlaceToBeNation.com. You can check out Scott Criscullo and me on the Mothership, the Place to Be podcast, home of great interviews and our famous Vintage Vault pay-per-view reviews. If you need your fix of current wrestling talk, we have plenty of options for you, including Main Event, which features a roundtable discussion led by PTBN analysts and special guests, and our monthly pay-per-view reaction shows, including immediate feedback and discussion for WWE, NXT, Ring of Honor, and New Japan Super shows. Also, be sure to relive wrestling's past with Graham Cawthon's excellent exclusive History of Wrestling podcast, Phil Schneider's Digging in the Crates, and our monthly pay-per-view rewind roundtable series led by Ben Morse. And join Pro Wrestling Only's Will and I on the Dangerous Alliance podcast as we dive into various subjects in the form of exercises and games. Sports fans have plenty to enjoy as well. We featured the Sports Evolution Mega Show with Scott, Dr. G, Cowboy, and Cowboy Sr., the Kings of Sport, led by Live Audio Wrestling's Godfather Nate Milton, as well as the NBA Team Podcast, which takes a year-round deep dive into pro hoops, and the TJ McClune Show, featuring great guests from around the world of sports journalism. PTBN also proudly features the Richard the Mailman Podcast, specializing in the world of TV, thought leadership, anger, and irreverence. As mentioned, all these shows available on PlaceToBeNation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world. PTBN also is the home to tremendous in-depth features on pro wrestling, sports, movies, comics, plus tournaments and more. We also want to thank our friends at Bonehead's Wing Bar in West Warwick, Rhode Island and Fall River, Massachusetts, Scott Keats, RSPWFAQ.com blog, and PileDriver.net.
Lives are gonna be in Waylon Mercy's hands. You know what I mean? I don't think so.
All right, we're back here on the Kevin Kelly Show on the Place to Be Nation and our website home, PlaceToBeNation.com. Now, if you were a college football fan back in the day, Georgia Bulldogs, you probably remember Danny Spivey. If you were a wrestling fan, focused on All Japan from the late 80s to the mid-90s, you probably know Danny Spivey. But and even if you were a WWF fan in the mid-'80s, you know Danny Spivey. But did you know that Danny Spivey is also very influential in the scene today for a variety of reasons? And that's why we've invited him here as our guest here on the Kevin Kelly Show. Danny, it's great to talk to you, man. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Kevin. How are you?
I am wonderful. We share several common bonds. Number one, of course, my announcing career and your wrestling career both started in Florida. And your wife, Ann Russo, is one of my dearest friends. We worked together in the WWE, and
Yes.
we loved her. She's awesome. How did you get so lucky as to meet Ann? Because I know it probably wasn't at the best period in your life, right?
No, it certainly wasn't. She really disliked me a lot because when I came back in 95, I came back to work for Vince, as Waylon Mercy, and called me one day and told me, she said, "Danny, you have to make an appearance." And I said, "No, I don't." And she said, "Oh, yes, you do." I said, "No, I don't. I'm not doing it." And she says, "Well, you have to, or we'll fire you." I said, "I don't care. Fire me. If you fire me, I'm just going to work for my parents." My parents had a construction company back there in Tampa, and she says, "Well, you're going." I said, "No, I'm not." And so she just really hated me, and she went to JJ and told JJ that he needed to fire me, and he needed to make me do the appearance, and JJ just said, "Leave him alone and find somebody else." And so she didn't like me. But 20 years later, or somewhere around that period, she was the one who was instrumental in saving my life. She was started the alcohol and drug program for the WWE, and she was very instrumental into seeing that I got help. And she put me in a rehab, and things changed. She started to like me. So anyway, I went from being the real bad guy to a guy she was willing to help, and I appreciated it, and I married her.
Well, it's I'm sure that it's probably the toughest job she's ever had is trying to keep you in line, right?
I don't know about that.
I don't know.
Nowadays.
Hey, we've had a lot of cool guests here on the show, and we generally try to, because I'm 48 years old, and I grew up watching championship wrestling from Florida, and I have been a professional wrestling announcer for the past 24 years, and I worked for Vince from 96 to 2003, and right now I'm the announcer for Ring of Honor. So I know a lot of contemporary guys, but I always find myself wanting to interview guys from my generation of when I first started, and that's why we've had wanted to have you on, and we had Del Wilkes on, and we also had DDP on, and Brian Blair, and other guys like that from sort of that older generation. A lot of stories about how things would spiral out of control, and it was always that quest for control that was seemingly elusive. Is that part of your story? What brought you to the point to where Ann had to reach out and get you help?
What I have is I had a disease. I was, an alcoholic and drug addict. I think that, I don't know whether, if I wouldn't have got into wrestling, if I would have been an alcoholic or drug addict, I think it's a pretty good chance that I would have been. Injuries, I had a lot of injuries, and I've had 6 hip replacements, a knee replacement, and my neck's been fused. And, I got hooked on painkillers, opiates, but, that wasn't the only thing. I was addicted to cocaine. I was addicted to any kind of drug, anything that would get me high. I was a junkie, And, I was just very grateful that, and the WWE put me through treatment 4 different times. They cared enough about me and saw that I got help. And, luckily the 4th time was the charm. And, I grasped onto that and turned my life around. At 56 years old, I had given up. I just quit. I didn't want to live anymore. And that's where this disease of alcoholism and drug addiction will take you. And nowadays it affects everybody one way or another. A loved one, a coworker. It's just it's an epidemic, and it's just a tough battle. Because a lot of people are afraid to ask for help. But I got to the point where I was willing to do anything to turn my life around.
And I know that it's that one day at a time mentality, right? That has not changed, correct?
No, that hasn't changed. I'm in a 12-step program, and I believe in. I have things that I have to do each day to make sure I stay sober. And I make sure I do them because I don't want to ever go back to that place. You know, people think, well, I've been sober for 20 years. I think that I can have a drink or I can smoke a joint or something like that. And it's a progressive disease. I mean, I'll never be able to drink a beer or just smoke a joint or any of that stuff. I have to stay, I can't do them ever, or I'll be right back where I started from.
And out of all the things that has happened with the WWE throughout all of the ups and downs of throughout time, I think that this rehabilitation services that they offer for anybody that was ever, part of the company, I think is one of the greatest things that has ever been done, and gets very, very little publicity. They get very little credit for the good work that they are doing. Would you tell me what this program means to you? How would you summarize it for somebody that wasn't even aware that WWE offered these services?
I don't know of another corporation in America or in the whole wide world that does that. They took care of me. I hadn't worked for them for around 15, 16 years or something like that. And, they took care of me. And, it doesn't matter if you were in developmental, you never made it to the big show. I mean, they still take care of you. You never sign a contract with Vince. They will make sure that you get the treatment that you need, and I don't know anybody else who would do that. It's just
if you
amazing.
You work for General Motors, and you're there 10 years, and then 10 years later, you fall into addiction. You call up General Motors and say, "Hey, man, listen, I need you guys to pay for rehab. You haven't worked here in 10 years, pal," and they will hang up on you.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if there's another corporation in America. I'm sure there might be someone. If you were a current employee, they might help you, but I don't know of anybody who has a program, like the WWE. I don't believe NFL does, or the NBA, or Major League Baseball. I don't know if any of them do that. I don't believe they do. If they do, I haven't heard of it.
Right. It certainly is interesting, and I think again you mentioned something too about like guys that don't even get out of developmental. I know that a lot of, and we were talking earlier on in the show, Danny, about some of the things that WWE could or could not do, like with Sting getting injured last Sunday at pay-per-view. And it's unfortunate, and things happen. We know that. We see it all the time. But gosh, it's, it'd be so great if they could do something and control these type of things. And I'm like, well, there's so many great people that work backstage that work with the developmental system. And I know that you've spent some time there, and you helped kind of inspire what Bray Wyatt is today. How did that come to be? Was that indirectly through tape study of Waylon Mercy, or was that actually you kind of working side by side with him?
Well, as most people know, that me and Mike Rotundo were tag team partners, and Mike was very instrumental in my beginning. I went to the WWE and teamed up with Mike. I had only been in the business about a year and a half. It was a huge break for me to go in there and team up with someone who had been around for a while. And Mike was a really good guy, and he helped me out. Well, I met his son. I knew his kids growing up, and when they were growing up, and I met them down there at the developmental center when they was in Tampa, and his son Wyndham came to me and said, "Dan, I really love the character Waylon Mercy. I'm thinking about doing that. Would you mind?" I said, "I would be honored if you would do it. And just let me know, what you need from me to help you." He said, "Well, what would you?" I said, "First of all, I'd watch the movie, 150 times, and just get ideas off of that and use people, that you've known in your past. You being that you lived in the South, I'm sure you know some people that were goofy like that and had that kind of characteristics of being a Southern gentleman and then just stabbing in the back when first chance they got, And so, the guy has done a great job with it. I'm really proud of it.
It's almost like. And I think that's one of those great characters, because I know when I was in WWE, I worked on the magazine staff, and we talked many times about doing things with whatever happened to Waylon Mercy. Where did that character go? And we talked about it on the TV side. Like, let's revisit some old characters and start to bring some of those stories back, whatever happened to. And Waylon Mercy became almost like an urban legend because he was there and then he was gone. But one hell of an impact you made on everybody, because even all those years later, people still talk about it. Now it's the embodiment of Bray Wyatt. So you must have been doing something right.
Yeah, the whole thing, everybody thought that I got hurt on a show where me and Diesel were having a match and powerbomb me. Everybody thought I had hurt my back. That wasn't the case. I just got mad and I quit. That's simple as that. It was just, they weren't doing anything with me at the time. And the biggest mistake I ever made in my wrestling career was the fact that, we were in Montreal and we had a pay-per-view there. They didn't use me on the pay-per-view. And it was snowing. There was snow on the ground. And in Tampa, Florida, it was 85 degrees and sunny. And I walked out of the hotel in Montreal, and across the street was the airport. And I told Charles Wright, I said, Charles, drive me to the airport. I'm going home. And I got on the plane and flew back to Florida. It was 85 and sunny. And next day, Vince called me and, just about begged me to come back and Jerry Briscoe. And I said, no, I'm done. 2 weeks later, I had my knee replaced. And then 6 months after that, I had my first hip replacement. So I was in a lot of pain, but I could have gone on, and I wished I would have, because I feel like, I left a lot of unfinished business out there.
And now the life's work seems to be in a much more positive frame of mind for you and for others. How are you, aside from managing your own care, how are you personally helping others, Danny, with what they might be dealing with, some of your brethren?
Gosh, the first 3 times that I went through rehab, they give you tools to use, and how to insert it into everyday life. And when I would come back and, you're supposed to go to a meeting, and I get home and I couldn't find the meeting, I just say, oh, screw it, I'm not doing it, And then, later on I tried again. I go to find a meeting, and, you're supposed to talk to people and get phone numbers and stuff, and I just wouldn't do it. I wouldn't use the tools that were given to me in rehab and insert them into everyday life. Well, the last time I went through rehab, I thought of this idea of, what if one of the boys, like myself, who's been through rehab, showed the other guys, who've been through rehab, show them how to do these things and how to put this into everyday life, And, my deal was the fact that I was a professional wrestler. You people can't tell me what to do because you never walked in my shoes. If you did what I did for a living, but they can't tell me that because I've done that and done much more than most of them. So
right.
I came up with this idea of being a sober companion for the guys when they get out of rehab. And so the WWE has employed me several times to go home with guys and show them how to use those tools and show them how to get started with their program after they get out of rehab. And I don't only do that for the WWE, I do it for anybody who just calls me and needs help, and I help them, show them what I did to get sober.
It's funny because,
and what I do to stay sober, too.
To stay, right, because the first 3 times, hey, man, great, congratulations, you've graduated from rehab. You're not cured. You got to go manage your care now on your own, and it's a big, wide world out there with a lot of unanswered questions, and it seems like the simplest thing, but being one of the boys is so critically important, too, because it comes so much better probably coming from you because they can relate to you. You can relate to them.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty well known that I was a big drug user. And so, the older guys, and even stories, from the older guys back to the younger guys, they know, what kind of person I was, I was a guy you didn't want to mess with in the locker room. And I was, I'm a pretty straight up shooter. And, that's kind of helped, with dealing with people. So I really enjoy giving back to a business that I truly loved. It's been good to me, and I'm just trying to help the guys, because we've lost so many through drugs and alcohol over the last 20 years. I hear reports that it's been 50. Some reports are up to 70 people we have lost. I know we average probably losing 2 or 3 people every year to drugs and alcohol, and it's a battle, and it's really tough to get sober, and it's not every easy thing to do. It's not for sissies. It's a tough deal.
So a fan at home, I'm trying to think of who the most, Roddy Piper, for example. When he passed away, was in his early 60s, correct?
61, yes.
Yeah. Does the layperson at home say, my gosh, a wrestler died at 61. It must have been drugs. It must have been alcohol. I mean, the reports were that it was a blood clot. But should we think that it's related to drugs and alcohol? Meaning he doesn't have to die as a result of an overdose to it being a drug or a alcohol-related death. Is that a fair comparison to make?
Well, Ronnie was, he had issues, but like all of us, he ran hard. Back in the day, I mean, the 70s, 80s, the guys ran hard. They really did. I mean, a lot of drinking, a lot of partying. It was, that was the way it was. I mean, you had to be divorced 2 or 3 times, and you had to drink a lot of beer and do a lot of partying, to be a wrestler and be on the top, and, the guys really ran hard back then, and it's just amazing that there's not more probably dead, but I'm not saying that Roddy died, but all his stuff beforehand, it didn't help him any. Right. I know that.
Well, I know that what were some of the best times of your career? Did you enjoy your trips to Japan? I know that probably had to be grueling, but was that fun? You had to be just overwhelmed the first time you stepped into Madison Square Garden when you were only a couple of years into your career. I mean, take me through some of those experiences. What were some of the real personal highlights that you look back on today and remember fondly?
It was really hard in the beginning. Me and Scott Hall starting the business together. Dusty was the one that found us and put us together, and we really paid our dues, the first 6 to 7 months. I got really fortunate. I got to go to the WWE early in my career, and that was a very, that was a big high spot for me. My gosh, I hadn't even been in the business a year and a half, and I'm already going up there and I'm working with Mike Rotundo and a pretty good tag team, and that was a big deal. And when I got fired and let go, I had become friends with Terry Funk, and I was young and I hadn't paid my taxes. I owed the IRS about $20,000. I had ruptured a disc in my neck. I had neck fusion. I was pretty down, and Terry Funk had called me and he said, Dan, would you be interested in going to Japan? I said, oh, hell yeah, and Terry booked me over in Japan, and Japan was just, they did my style. It was, as long as you didn't bring blood on somebody, you didn't break any bones, it was good. And the stiffer, the better. And that just fit me to the T, and they really liked my work over there. There wasn't any politics, they graded you on and treated you the way you worked in the ring. There was no dogs, and there was no birds, and there was no lady managers, and there was not a lot of bullshit. It was just, get in there and just work your ass off. I went to 4 straight tours over there. I went, I work a month, go home for a couple of weeks, and go back. That was a big turning point in my career. And then later on, I got to be tag team partners with Stan Hansen, who was a legend in Japan. I had the opportunity to work with 2 of the best workers in the business ever, tough guys, Dr. Death, Steve Williams, and Terry Gordy. Some of the Japanese guys, what great workers they are. I mean, Jumbo Tsuruta and Tenryu and Kabashi and Mazawa and Kawada. I mean, those guys could really work. And it was a pleasure to work over there. I wished I had my career to do over again. I don't think I ever come back to the stage.
Yeah.
Working for Giant Baba was a pleasure, and the matches that we have with Doc and Terry, I mean, they're classics. If you ever get a chance, watch some of those matches. They're awesome, and I'm just proud to been involved in those matches with those guys. I miss them dearly. They were good friends.
I know we talked to Del Wilkes a few weeks ago, and he points to that time, his time in All Japan, as his personal career favorite because of the quality of the athlete that he stood across the ring with. And you mentioned just some of the great names that were there. The talent that Baba was able to assemble was second to none. And his passing certainly led to a lot of turmoil in the company. Now, was that around the same time that you stayed more in the States, or were you there during the time when Mrs. Baba took over?
No, I was never involved when Mrs. Baba was in charge. Last time I went to Japan was in '95.
Okay, and that was much later on. And then, of course, you had opportunities throughout the years, for fans of WWF that remembered the tag team with Mike Rotunda, and then tag team in the Skyscrapers in WCW with a very young Undertaker, and all the experiences kind of leading towards where you are today in your life. But it sounds like that for everything that you did, Danny, there's no regret. There's just, this is the way it was. I make no excuses, and here we are.
No, the only regret I have is, I wish I would have gotten an opportunity earlier in my career to do Way of Mercy. I wish I would have finished, the unfinished business that I had with Way of Mercy. It was a character that I really enjoyed doing. It was the first time that I got to be somebody other than Dan Spivey or Dangerous Dan Spivey. It was a character that me and Vince created. I was just the lives are going to be in Way of Mercy's hands. You know what I mean? All that stuff was just stuff that I just came off the top of my head. They took me out to this picnic area and said, okay, Dan, we're going to do up in here, and you have a minute, or, and the red light come on. Okay. There was just no riders or nothing. It was just winging it, and that's what made those things just special. It was a special character.
So that was our interview with our pal Dan Spivey, and we just can't thank him enough. His beautiful wife, Ann. I've been friends with them for years, and it was great to be able to relive that special interview from September right here once again on the final episode of 2015 of the Kevin Kelly Show. 49 episodes in the books, gentlemen.
Hey. Kevin, I don't know if you remember, we used to do this really cool segment, and you'd get all excited about it, and you'd tease it, and then we'd play some music. You remember that? Remember that segment?
No.
You don't remember the big segment that was always in the middle of the show after the interview, and we'd have the voiceover guy would say, and now it's time for, and you'd get all giddy, and then we'd play the song. You said it was your favorite. Remember?
Oh, sweet.
Do you remember
We're doing this again?
What's it called? Quick.
This is my... Excuse me, I'm choking to death. This caught me off guard. This is our trending topics? Yes! I'm choking to death. I love this trending topic. Sing along.
Kev, a Florida woman, was arrested after driving a motorized cart through Walmart while eating chicken and drinking wine. Lecanto, Florida, a Florida woman has been accused of taking methamphetamine and driving a motorized shopping cart through a Walmart while drinking wine and eating sushi and cinnamon rolls. According to a Citrus County Sheriff's Office arrest report, security officer Robert Gross observed 25-year-old Jocelyn E. Lopez consuming $32.36 worth of food and wine inside the Lecanto store. Gross said he watched Lopez open the sushi, eat a piece, put it back on the shelf, It says Lopez did the same thing with a package of mini muffins and cinnamon rolls and ate most of a rotisserie chicken. Lopez told authorities she's homeless and hungry and had just injected herself with meth. She was arrested on charges of retail petite theft and possession of drug paraphernalia. Thoughts on Miss Lopez, and have you ever encountered anything like this in a retail setting?
Well, coming from Florida, I can tell you that this story, and I do remember this headline when it did come out, this is quintessential Florida. This is exactly it. Walmart, theft of a motorized cart, methamphetamine, chicken, and wine. That's Florida in a nutshell. Welcome to the Sunshine State. It's again, I don't really see anything wrong with this whole scenario as it's a victimless crime other than the items that she stole. But I'm impressed that the Walmart motorized cart was able to hold a charge while she ate 3/4 of a rotisserie chicken. Those can be really time consuming.
They can be, and they're dangerous too. It's tough. I mean, she's driving that thing around while high on meth, which is impressive enough too. I mean, that's.
Oh yeah, think about that. Kept it between the white lines, to hands at 10 and 2. Good for her. God bless her.
No white lines, meth.
Well, that's a great way to. Now, generally with these, this is such a treat. What a holiday surprise! Trending stories, these trending topics, generally come in batches of 3. So I would hope that the Christmas fairy would have brought us trending story number 2 here on the Kevin Kelly Show.
Kind of a sad one here, Kev, but I think worth mentioning. Metal great Lemmy Kilmister from Motorhead. Kilmister? I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. The metal community shook late Monday with news that the singer, bassist, and songwriter Lemmy from the influential British metal band Motorhead had passed away at the age of 70. The news was confirmed Monday by the band's former publicist, who had been informed through the friend of a band, and of course rippled through social media immediately with Triple H and many others. Ozzy Osbourne expressing their well wishes to Lemmy as he passed away here today. Are you a Motorhead fan, Kev? What are your memories of Lemmy?
I remember the music video for Ace of Spades when I was a teenager. Ace of Spades. It was just an ugly mess that music video was, but loved it. And it was very rarely on. Then it would be on that Headbangers Ball show. You'd find that every once in a while. And my fondest memory of them was actually seeing them live at WrestleMania. And the band, yes, indeed, did get into a fight, an altercation during rehearsal during the day. So that was a lot of fun. We didn't think that Motorhead would be taking the stage. My
favorite part had to be Lemmy, clearly not knowing the words to Triple H's song at WrestleMania 17 and just going, it was just awful all over the place, but it was great, seeing them play live. And it's such iconic. The tie-in to wrestling is so iconic for them because they've done so many high-level theme songs, pretty much all for Triple H, but also did the Enter Sandman version on the old ECW CD that I played a lot in college. They did a very memorable version of Enter Sandman. So R.I.P. Lemmy, music legends. Sad to see him go for sure, especially since he was still out there getting it done.
But Christ, he made it to 70.
Yeah, good run for a musician.
So a hell of a run. Yeah, nice job. All right, so that's the second trending story. We had one fun one. We had one that was a little down, but we'll hopefully we'll finish strong here with the third trending story here on the Kevin Kelly Show. Very creepy music.
Well, that's because we didn't order a calamari ring this large, Kev. A giant squid spotted on Christmas Eve in Japan's Toyama Bay, roughly 344 kilometers northwest of Tokyo. The bay is known for a breeding ground of hordes of luminous firefly squid, but it's rare to see a giant squid swimming this close to shore, according to diving shop owner Akibubu Kimura. Kimura swam close and filmed the estimated 3.7 meter, that's 12.1 foot large squid before helping guide it back to the ocean. It's the first sighting of a giant squid this season, running from November to March. There were 16 reports of these freaky creatures being caught in fishing nets last season. Stick to the kiddie pool, kids. And if you see the picture of this thing, Kev, I wish you well in your trip to Japan coming up here in January.
I'm not going now because, damn it, I'm going to have nightmares about this giant squid.
It is not fun. And I thought it tied in with the sushi from the meth story. So
the crystal meth lady in Lecanto, Florida, did not eat the giant squid.
I hope not. Have you ever encountered anything like really frightening?
I took diving lessons in college, and I was the king in the pool. Right, had the giant stride entry down.
Cock and a walk.
Mr. Regulator. I was breathing. I was having fun zipping around a pool. Do the giant stride entry off the back of the boat for my certification dive, and I just about shit my pants. Because for whatever reason, 33 feet of ocean depth, it looked like it was right there. And I completely freaked out. So I lost my mask and my regulator flew out of my mouth. I swam over to the edge of the boat, and the diving instructor was like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm freaking out." Put your mask back on, put your regulator back into my mouth. And I forgot to purge it first. So, of course, I inhale a bunch of salt water. And then I calm down. I breathe a little bit. And I'm like, all right, fine. And then I swam and I did my dive and it was fine. But terrifying 30 seconds where I thought I was having like a heart attack just jumping into the ocean. But everything worked out okay. But, yeah, I saw a lot of creepy stuff down there. It was very wild.
Ugh. The ocean's scary to me. I like swimming.
Well, listen, you're from Rhode Island, so it's very scary up there. It's the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. It's a whole lot of traumatic scenes for children.
I'm not a boat guy.
I'm not a boat guy.
Not a boat guy.
Well, I really enjoyed this trip down memory lane with bringing back the trending stories. That was something I've really missed.
Well, maybe it'll be back even more. We'll see. You never know what tricks or what to expect during the Kevin Kelly Show. And again, we'll be celebrating episode 50 in a couple weeks, Kev. We're working, hopefully, on a secret special guest. We'll see. And, of course, our 2-year anniversary as well kind of times out. So congrats to you making it this far, and we look forward to another great performance from you over in Japan. So we wish you well on your trip. I think it's before the next show, right? It's coming up soon, next week. Is that it?
I leave on the 1st, and I come back on the 6th. So,
okay. So yeah, we'll
when we get back together on the 11th, I will have fun tales to tell one and all.
You'll have my Ribera Steakhouse jacket, I hope.
I'm going to get you a giant squid instead.
Okay, live, please.
Yes, of course.
Okay, very good.
I'm going to try to check this giant squid. Do you mind? I put it right here in the overhead. It'll be fine.
It's fine.
Fine. I love the guy, the scientist, or whatever his name was. His name is Kimura. So it's just such a wrestling name. It's perfect.
Where's your lock, Mr. Kimura?
Yes, it's Kimura Lock. He's here, and he's going to put this on. Well, it's 8 arms on
that's what he put on the
squid.
Yes, he put the Kimura Lock on the squid to lock the arms down.
You've got a lot of work ahead of you, but I think you could do it. Just 8 at a time. Watch out for those. Watch out for the other tentacles. You'll be fine. All right. So, again, can't thank everybody enough. Thanks to JR. Thanks, Dan. You guys are awesome. And, JR, you really are the driving force behind this show. You're the big reason why I'm still doing it. I have a lot of fun doing it each and every time. But, when my enthusiasm might start to wane, you've always found the right encouragement, generally in the form of Vince McMahon-driven insults, to power me through and to help me finish strong. So I appreciate you keeping me on task and doing everything that you've done. Thanks to Brad for setting all this up as you sit upon your big nest of billions in your expansive home in West Philadelphia suburbs. Thank you again for creating this fun environment that we all get to play in and allowing us to fruitfully prosper and get our creative jag on all the time. So we do appreciate all the fans as well, each and every listener, and keep spreading the word about the Kevin Kelly Show and everything that we're doing here on the Place to Be Nation. So to one and all, very happy 2016. Best wishes for the new year. And as we leave you with some sounds of Brother Kite, we will join you in a couple of weeks' time, the 50th edition of the Kevin Kelly Show here on the Place to Be Nation and our website home, placetobenation.com.
Talk your shirt in, you slob. Pick up to get ready to rig the thing I wore for the ass motorboating.
A tree fell on Greg Abbott.
I'm only 50 now, and the phone could ring at any time.
Basically, because she had Tommy John and had the strong arm, she gave these awesome hand jobs that he was, obsessed with.
This honey is from Hazel's Honey Hut.
But, by the way, speaking of food and Bush,
I think Chris Jericho is who Michael Hayes would like to be.
Always had a lot of issues with Cox, or have you dealt with Cox better in the past?
I used to enjoy dealing with Cox.
Then people would be more inclined to buy the network and watch the shows.
I'd buy the network for a happy
I do not know where Steve Austin is. He saw the gun, and he left. Oh my God, he's back!
All right, here we go. So I got to piss. Be right back.
Will you do my wife and I the honor of purchasing you?
Wait a minute.
I don't get butt hurt.
Bye.